This is the story of Anne Boleyn, the story of her demise. The story of Anne Boleyn is well known. She was the second wife to King Henry VIII, Queen of England, and the mother of arguably the most well-respected queen in English history. However, plagued, like so many other of King Henry's wives, she met her death. But how did she survive so long, and what ultimately caused her downfall? Some historians say it was because Henry no longer loved her. Some say it was for political reasons, while others even blame witchcraft. Nonetheless, the history of Anne Boleyn and her downfall has changed throughout time. In the 16th and 19th centuries, historians claimed that Anne's downfall was the result of politics. They said Anne and Thomas Cromwell were both fighting for King Henry's attention. These attention-seeking battles were long and dreary. They fought about many things such as church reform, finances, and political alliances. Unfortunately for Anne, Cromwell had the upper hand. He poked and prodded and eventually found the perfect way to make her disappear by charging her with high treason and incest. But in the 20th century, historians said the reason for Anne's downfall was the direct result of her inability to produce a son. They wrote that 16th century monarchs were obsessed with having an heir to the throne, especially a boy. And Henry was no exception. Mary and Elizabeth were simply not enough. He needed a son, and when Anne was unable to provide, Henry's love for her began to fade away. However, feminist historians rallied around Anne. They dismissed the whore and slut name-calling, and instead focused on her achievements. They saw her as a church reformer, as a feminist. She fought for what she believed. She was a woman who rose up in a male-dominated society, and did whatever she could to assert her power. After all, she is the only wife, besides Queen Catherine of Aragon, who was able to become queen. But Anne Boleyn's reputation was doomed to fail again, as modern historians consider the practice of witchcraft to be her downfall. They mention that witchcraft was heavily feared in the 16th century, and modern historians claimed her deformed child and miscarriages proved her wickedness. Although modern historians may not believe in witchcraft, the people of the 16th century did, and Anne, unfortunately, had no hope. Some contemporary historians looked specifically at what Anne said the month before her execution, specifically May Day weekend. They say her comments and loose lips is what eventually led for her conviction and death. Historians say that if she had stayed quiet, maybe she could have escaped with her life. Instead, her own words were used against her. But how could a woman so smart be so careless? Historians responded, Anne knew her reign was over. Throughout time, Anne Boleyn has been portrayed with many different personalities. She has been portrayed as a great queen, a witch, a stupid, promiscuous girl, and a political mastermind. Needless to say, historians have both loved and hated Anne and Henry, but many have been enthralled by the scandalous story. This famous story is seen throughout the Western world, as has been promoted by TV shows, movies, and books, all revolving around the Tudors. Nonetheless, the story of Anne Boleyn's downfall will continue to change, but the story behind Anne Boleyn and King Henry VIII will remain spectacular and favored, focusing on scandal, sex, love, politics, and death.